Welcome to Culture and Christianity. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. You're going to get to reintroduce you to my friend Daniel Boston. He's the founder of Preserve Gold, and they are one of the sponsors of this podcast. I met Daniel and Preserve Gold actually through my friends at TBN. We were doing some programming on TBN, and they were working with TBN. And when we started this podcast, Daniel and his team reached out and asked if they could be a part of this. We're pretty picky about that, but I have trusted them and found them to be good partners on this journey. So because of their willingness to walk with us, this podcast is a possibility. Not only that, I think he'll help you understand. I hear a lot on television about gold and silver. It's a confusing mess most of the time. I think Daniel will bring some clarity to it. He always has when I've talked to him. I think you'll enjoy the conversation and hope it opens a door for you to have a bit more of contentment in your future. Hope you enjoy the conversation. I'm delighted to have Daniel Boston with us again today. Welcome back, Daniel.
Thanks, Pastor, for having me.
You are the founder of Preserve Gold. And full disclosure, they are one of the sponsors. We only have two for this podcast. And that's intentional. It isn't because we haven't had other people, companies very interested. But sponsorship is something that's important to us. We want it to be people and institutions and products that we trust. And Preserve Gold is on that very short list. So thank you for coming back.
And I appreciate that. And likewise, we wanted to make sure that we align our brand with our partners who share the same vision that we do.
Well, you founded this company. So maybe we just start with that. Tell us what was the need that you saw and how's that working?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've been in the industry for well over a decade. I worked in the industry as a broker, and just saw a need that needed to be filled, where there was companies out there that operated, in my opinion, from a place that lacked integrity and transparency. And so I just saw an opportunity. I believe in gold. I've believed in gold for a long time. And so I founded Preserve Gold with the vision of integrity, transparency being at the forefront of everything that we do. So we take a very educational type of approach. We want people to understand the reasons why they're investing in gold. Not just being sold a bill of goods, but actually understand what's going on behind the scenes. And we do things in a way that's very honest and transparent. And that's the need that I kind of stepped into, or the role I stepped into, I should say. And I think we've really created this company where people really appreciate working with us.
I'm not an expert, so maybe you just start by educating me. I hear a lot of chatter on television and places, but the value of an individual owning physical gold or silver in today's world, why do you encourage that?
There's a laundry list of reasons why people should really look at gold and silver right now. I mean, the people that bought gold and silver a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago are really happy campers right now. And I think that the price moves that we've seen in both gold and silver are going to continue well into the future for a number of reasons. So first and foremost, we have geopolitical tension and uncertainty, between Russia, Ukraine, potentially China, Taiwan, North Korea, the rest of the world. Now Greenland, believe it or not, it feels like a never-ending list, the Middle East. That's a catalyst for gold and silver prices to go a lot higher. In addition to that, tariffs have been tremendously successful, but have created a lot of uncertainty amongst employers. And so we're seeing that impact the job market. And so how that spills out into 2026 in terms of a recession would be very positive for both gold and silver prices. There is a massive deficit right now inside the silver market. A lot of the silver that's above ground that's been mined has already been used up. And so the demand just is increasing. They're in London. There's literally no silver on the London Exchange. They're having to fly in silver on planes to fulfill the futures contracts. This is a problem that's not going away anytime soon. Compound that with solar, EV, AI, data centers, so on and so forth, where it's the best conductor of electricity. So solar is the main component that's used to produce these kinds of electronics. I think gold and silver prices are going to skyrocket.
So with AI and the demands for ever increasing more computing power, silver's value and utilization is just growing day over day.
That's correct. Yeah.
And the prices of gold and silver, they just keep making significant incremental moves up.
Yeah.
you see a change in that movement in the near future?
What you want to see in a healthy market is you want to see higher highs or higher lows and higher highs. That tells you that we're in an uptrend. It's good to see pullbacks along the way, but I think, over the next 2, 3, 4 years, I think prices are going to continue to go up for the reasons that I already mentioned. Since 2025, silver's up well over 200%. Believe it or not, gold's up 65% in 2025. I believe it's up around 85% since 2025 year to date. And I think that's going to continue. We're moving into a period of great uncertainty. A lot of these policies that the Trump administration has brought into focus are really necessary to get us back on the right track. But it's going to cause, and it is causing, some real uncertainty and could potentially cause some pain. And so I think, with that, the reason why you move into gold and silver, it's a way to hedge against uncertainty. So if you're exposed to stocks and bonds, money typically rotates out of stocks and bonds during a market crash into gold and silver as an alternative, which is why those prices move up as the equity markets move down. During periods of inflation, which is obviously another hot topic that we're dealing with right now, when money rotates out of cash, again, it needs a place to go. It tends to gravitate towards gold and silver because it's one of the best defensive assets you can use to protect purchasing power. So there's just so many tailwinds for gold and silver prices, so many things that are going on that should create higher prices going forward.
So after decades of kind of reckless fiscal policy and crazily escalating debt and the stability of the dollar, I mean, Trump's put some policies in place that seem to forebode better for the future, but administrations change pretty regularly.
They do.
So gold and silver typically referred to as a safe haven, something that presents more stability, even though there's some up and down in it. So it's a way that the physical recklessness of politicians doesn't necessarily directly impact all of our assets.
That's correct. Yeah,
I'm a hillbilly. It's got to be really simple for me to get it. I grew up in a barn. So.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I mean, you can print the dollar into oblivion. There's only so much gold and silver that exists in the world. You can't print gold and silver, and that's the main thing. It's a finite resource. It's been used as currency for thousands of years. It's more recently in modern times been used as a currency hedge. It's central banks and hedge funds and pensions. They all hoard gold and silver as a way to protect themselves against the risk that's been created by the Fed, who seems to believe that money grows on trees. Whenever we have a problem, we just turn on the money printer. And that's obviously problematic. When you hold the world reserve currency, like we do here in the US, every country is at the mercy of the US dollar. And so, think about it like this. You have central banks that are printing money out of thin air, and then they're taking that printed money and they're using it to buy gold to protect themselves against the very risk that they're creating. So I always tell people, you don't want to do what the big players are telling you to do. You want to do what they're doing themselves.
You don't have to look far to see that our economy is in real turmoil. Our nation is $37 trillion in debt. Inflation rates made it hard to buy and sell a house, even a car. We're all feeling it. When you go to the grocery store and you spend an extra $1 or $2 on every item, that gets personal in a hurry. Well, the most important thing we can do during uncertain times is to invest ourselves in knowing God better. Read His Word, pray. That's the only place we're really going to find stability we need for the disruption that I'm pretty certain is ahead of us. Beyond that, it's just plain wise to make the best decisions possible in our daily lives with our investments. When you think of all the options out there, gold is an investment that has stood the test of time. That's why I work with Preserve Gold. They've treated me with honesty, integrity, kindness every step of the way. They're offering a free wealth protection kit, and all you need to do is text ALLEN, that's ALLEN, to 50505. As a bonus, you'll get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. Go ahead and text them today. Well, maybe give us a little coaching. What the biggest economic shifts that are happening right now that American families need to understand and be aware of?
Yeah, I think it's, you got market valuations across the board that make no sense. P/E ratios are through the roof. I think, stocks are at nosebleed levels. There's a ticking time bomb, I believe, inside the commercial real estate market where these loans are coming due in this year. There's a lot of vacancies that still remain from the COVID days when people left the office and went to work from home. Rates have gone higher. So these corporations or these pensions and hedge funds that and regional banks that hold these loans can't refinance into lower rates. So that's problematic. So I think we're going to see some bank runs potentially in 2026. Certainly, there's more geopolitical tension as we move into the future. Nobody has a crystal ball. I certainly don't, so I can't tell you what's going to happen. But what I would tell people is it's all about diversification. You want to diversify and hedge against uncertainty. So gold is a great way to do that. I think having exposure to cash, having exposure to precious metals, stocks and bonds is a great way to take advantage of whatever's going to happen. Because like I said, we don't have a crystal ball, but it's good to be prepared for, as the Bible says, be prepared in season and out of season.
Absolutely. So what's the most, so often I think when we pick up this topic, it's frightening to people. And then I think professional Christians like myself sometimes fuel that fire because we kind of roll the end of the world into the discussion.
Yeah.
But the way I understand it, what you're really trying to do is help people imagine stability. And I think that's a great gift.
Yeah.
So there's no single answer to this. Diversity is the word you use, but it means you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, but you're aware of an unstable environment. And this is one thing that you can do to help limit some of your exposure to the craziness in the world. That feels like a gift to me that you're bringing to people.
That's absolutely correct. When I think of gold and silver, it's synonymous to me with peace of mind. That's really what you're investing in. You're investing in peace of mind. Look, in 2000, we had the techmania.com bubble crash. In 2008, we had the financial crisis. You can go throughout time in modern history in response to market events. When you have a stock market crash, gold and silver prices 9 times out of 10 have outperformed everything else. They have been the best performing asset. In 2008, for example, silver prices went up well over 400% in response to that financial crash. In the 1980s, during the last bout of inflation that we had, gold and silver prices moved up tremendously. So when you buy gold and silver, like we were saying, you're buying peace of mind. It's when everything else goes in the wrong direction, you're holding an asset that's tangible. You can hold it in your hand. It can't be printed into oblivion. It's not a digital transaction or a digital asset where you can push a button and it disappears. It's there. It's secure. It's never gone to zero. So it's a way to mitigate risks inside the market, mitigate risks with the cash that you hold. And if things get really bad and something happens with the dollar, which I think is another concern that a lot of people have given the trajectory we've been on, precious metals have always withstood the test of time. No
guarantees. There's risk involved, like with any investment, any assets you hold, whether it's real estate, whatever it is.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, anyone who tells you, they guarantee that something's going to happen, that's the first person you want to hang up the phone on and run the other direction.
Yes, I agree. Well, you mentioned the dollar being the global reserve currency. Plain language, the way I understand that is the majority of the nations in the world use dollars for international trade.
Correct.
But China, in some of their aggressive attitudes to diminish U.S. influence, have tried to replace that. Now, some of the current events in the world seem to be limiting China's aggressive attitude, but they would definitely love to replace the dollar. So there is pressure against the dollar internationally, which has always made sense to me for the gold and silver as well.
Yeah.
We can't just presume that the next decade is going to be like the last several have been.
That's a really great point. Up to the year 2000, we were in a growth-based type of economy. Since then, we're in a debt-based economy. So the way we invested up to 2000 should be a lot different than the way we invest today. To your point, China, along with Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, the BRICS nations are creating this currency. They're in the process of doing this where they want to use this currency to replace the dollar. They're even talking about backing it with gold and silver. If that happens, life as we know it changes overnight. I mean, the thought of having to go to the gas station, convert dollars into bricks, currency, whatever that currency is going to be to purchase goods. This is a reality that countries have to live with to buy commodities like oil. It's a privilege that we have here in the United States that we don't have to worry about. But you're at that point, you're at the mercy of is my currency strong against the predominant world currency, or is it weak? You have no idea what your buying power looks like on a day-to-day basis. And so, again, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what the future holds. But, given that we're now $37 trillion in debt and rapidly climbing, and that's a problem that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. We're generating $1 trillion in new debt right now every 90 days, obviously unsustainable. So, I think it's all about just being prepared.
I'm going to step into that a little bit because I agree with you that we have to be prudent with our investments and the assets that we have. But we're not going to save our way out of this doom loop. our behaviors have to change.
That's absolutely correct.
We're going to have to find a way, and I don't believe that's going to start in Washington. I think that starts around our kitchen tables, that we're going to not spend money we don't have, that we'll bring some fiscal responsibility back to our lives. And then we can start to demand that of the people that we elect to provide leadership in our local communities and beyond.
That's absolutely right.
We've got to break out of this cycle that there'll just be some magic wand, or the government's going to fix us, or we're going to go take more money away from rich people and they're going to bail us out, because those plans won't work. We have to have a heart change at home, and then we can see perhaps a behavioral change in Washington or wherever else. Am I crazy, or does that make some sense?
No, it makes absolute sense. It's all about being proactive. You can't buy fire insurance on a house after a house is already on fire. Mm-hmm. The government has shown, especially over the last many administrations, that it takes the easy way out. If we have a problem, we issue a bailout. We have a problem, we print money. These are paths towards really destruction. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump's trying to go in the opposite direction, but in 3 years when someone else is in office, who knows what those policies are going to look like. So to your point, the decisions that we make at home, the decisions we make on a personal level really it's the most powerful thing that you can do as an individual. I can't control the Fed printing money out of thin air, devaluing my purchasing power. I can't control what happens in Wall Street, but I can control what happens here at home. The way I am a steward of, that which God has given me. And that's what I would encourage to our audience and our viewers is, we have to be stewards of our own finances. And the more that we can educate ourselves towards that, the better off we will be.
Well, one of the reasons I think this conversation is so helpful is you're introducing something that's a little countercultural. To be able to have anything to invest, it's not about having a lot of money, it's finding a place of contentment, that I can be content with the place I'm in, and therefore I can make an investment so my future can be better. And that's very against most of the messaging in our culture.
Yeah.
Even the people leading us, we're in debt, so we're going to spend more money to get out of debt. That's like being depressed because I'm overweight, and so I eat cake.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
that's not a good loop to get caught in.
Yeah.
And what you're asking us to think about is to find a way to be content in the place we are, so that our future could be filled with greater contentment, and not abandoning that to the government or somebody else, actually exercising some influence over our own lives and our own future.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
That's exactly correct. Don't be the pelican that buries its head in the sand and hopes that everything's going to be okay. No, there's things you can do proactively, no matter what your personal financial situation is. There's things that you can do today that will have a massive impact on the way that your world looks like tomorrow.
Yeah. I think the pelican puts their head in the water to get a fish. The ostrich buries their head in the sand to hide from their enemies.
The ostrich, I knew it was one of those.
It's some big bird. I think we've been acting more like big bird than we have ostriches, though. But I really do. I think it's a hopeful note, because I think the challenge we all face is we feel powerless. I know nobody in Washington cares about my opinion. I'm not influencing monetary policy. I'm not an economist that can understand all the charts and graphs. I've got a household budget, and I usually I have more month than I have resources, and you have to figure that out. And the conversation you're asking us to engage in becomes a strategic part of that planning, and I think that is so valuable. Well, I'm delighted to tell you about one of our sponsors. To be completely honest, we've declined a number of people who wanted to sponsor our podcast or something we were doing. But Ancient Nutrition isn't just a sponsor, it's actually a product I use. Jordan Rubin's a friend. We were at a Christmas event a little over a year ago, and I happened to be seated near Jordan, and I kind of confessed, I need to get healthier. A few days later, he showed up in my office with an eating plan and a box of Ancient Nutrition products that he said, you need to put these into your routine, and I did, and it worked. I didn't exactly completely disappear, but I got a lot healthier and stronger and had the energy to complete the assignments before me, which have been pretty intimidating lately, so I want to recommend it to you. AncientNutrition.com. They're multi-collagen protein and a whole menu of products. If you go to AncientNutrition.com and you just use the promo code Allen30, you get a 30% discount, and you can start this year in a healthier way for more productive outcomes. I think it'll be a blessing to you. What's the most hopeful thing you see on the horizon?
Well, we have a president in office that's doing the right thing. In the midst of the blowback that he's getting from all different kinds of sides, he's just focused on doing the right thing. And I just hope that the precedent he's setting today will carry forward into the future. And to me, that's the most hopeful thing right now.
Well, it isn't just President Trump, it's the people gathered around him. I mean, he's brought people with common sense and the courage to act on it, from Robert Kennedy Jr. reinventing our food pyramid. Who knew Cheetos weren't good for you? I mean, what a shocking announcement.
Unbelievable.
But I mean, even the financial, Besant and the whole crew, they've brought some common sense and fiscal responsibility. And have any hope we can root out the fraud?
I think he's doing a great job of going in that direction. I'm looking at what's going on in our education system and how that's being. I think that's the most important thing. It's all about the children and the next generation and how they're taught from an early age. And I think what he's doing with education is going to have just a huge impact. And that's probably, if I had to put something at the top of my list of what gives me the most hope, is probably that.
And I think education is going to be a little bit of a longer lift.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to fix that in one administration. It's taken us decades to find ourselves in this miserable place where higher education is about indoctrination.
Yeah.
And not about learning to think.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, we went to college to be exposed to a diverse set of ideas and have an open dialogue about that. And now our most elite institutions are indoctrination centers.
That's correct.
That's deplorable, to borrow somebody else's word.
Yeah, I agree.
But we can change it. We have to demand better and expect better.
And I think right now we are.
That is hopeful. So if somebody's listened to this and they want to know more about preserved gold, and how to make that a part of their own life, how do they find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah. So the first step is to either pick up the phone, go to our website. Phone number is 877-444-0923. The website's www.preservegold.com.
And if they're on a treadmill while they're listening to this, we'll put it on the bottom third of the screen so they can come back and pull it up on the screen and they can get it.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. They can pull out their cell phone, text Allen to 50505. One of our wealth protection experts, our precious metals experts, will be on the other end of the call or to answer and just answer questions. We're here to really understand people's situation, really take the time with people to understand goals and objectives, and then based on that, we can make recommendations. There's two ways you can go about acquiring gold and silver. If you have a retirement account like an IRA or 401k, you can simply transfer funds from that existing account into a new precious metals IRA, completely tax-free, penalty-free. If you have exposure to cash, checking account, savings account, money market CD, whatever the case is, you want to protect cash.
Maybe you have a Somali daycare and you got a lot of extra cash hanging around.
we should. I'm not in Minnesota, so thankfully I don't.
That was Pastor being a little snarky. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's okay. But yeah, just give us a call. We'll be happy to meet, our audience wherever they are. We have a free wealth protection guide that we're offering to our viewers. And if people are listening and want to make an investment with us, we're offering up to $20,000 in free gold and silver on their first purchase.
Wow. So if somebody calls or reaches out to you, they should expect like a high pressure sales pitch, like the worst used car salesman they've ever met.
The worst they've ever had. But in reality, it's the opposite. It's very, we spend a lot of time telling people we don't think gold and silver is a great option for people based on their situation. So it's really about taking the time with people, understanding that situation, identifying their goals, what they're trying to accomplish, what does the next 5-10 years look like for them, and then based on that, we'll provide recommendations that we think are unique and tailored to each person's own situation.
I've always been told about our physical health that the worst thing you can do for your body is nothing. That movement is good for you.
Yeah.
And I think something similar is true with our financial planning. The worst thing you can do is ignore it. If you pay attention and ask questions and start to learn. So I think Preserve Gold and my friend Daniel is a good first step, if it is your first step, in learning a bit about precious metals and why they can help bring some security and hopefully some contentment to your future.
Yeah, just all we tell people is just be proactive. Just take the first step and just ask questions, get educated, and from there we can figure out if if it's a good situation for you or not.
Well, Daniel, I thank you for partnering with us and helping bring some common sense to a part of our lives that doesn't have a lot of common sense anymore. You come back and we can talk about this again in a few months.
I will be back in a few months to talk about hopefully even more hope than what we're seeing today.
Thank you for taking the time to be back in Murfreesboro.
Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me today. Before you go, please like the podcast and leave a comment so more people can hear about this topic too. If you haven't yet, be sure and subscribe to Alan Jackson Ministries YouTube channel and follow the Culture and Christianity podcast. You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Together, let's learn how to lead with our faith. We can change our culture. I'll see you next time.